Welcome to the Standard Bank Blue Couch with Mathabo, Tlali, where we have conversations with artists that add to the 40-year legacy of Standard Bank being the champion of the arts. And our guest today is no stranger to accolades. His music is the pulse point of young jazz musicians in this country. Very familiar with an accolade, and one being the Standard Bank Young Artist Award for Music in the year 2022. He recently released his album, Tlali. Tlali, Linda Sikhakhane. How are you? Good. Before we get into the album, I'm very curious about your background. So when we look at your website, a very strong statement is made that Linda's love for music was triggered by his background. That triggering word is so interesting. What were the soundscapes that you grew up with, Mlazi?
Well, I come from KZN, a very musical province, I'd like to think. And, you know, my family comes from Gwanongoma, and by just the name, which means, you know, the mother of song, you know, I grew up in a place that was really surrounded by sounds and songs. And, you know, through music that I grew up listening to traditional music, I guess is where, you know, that like created a spark for me to sort of like respond to this upbringing. And of course, due to work purposes, my parents would then move to, you know, to the township in Umlazi, where I was born and raised. And, you know, through Umlazi, then I got exposed to a very special school in Umlazi Township called Siyakhula Music Center. And I guess that's when like my talent was really nurtured. And of course, speaking about my background, already there was music in my system. I just had to be in this institution that would like spark it.
Yeah, and why jazz in particular?
I would say jazz because I was exposed to it at the school. You know, they had like a jazz program, and seeing really young people, you know, playing this music that I had no idea what it was, but just seeing how much freedom it gave to them, they were able to improvise. And I just thought that maybe this particular music could, you know, be a way for me to express what I have, you know, in my system.
In your system. You make such a clear declaration that your ancestry, Qala KwaNongoma,
Yes.
wazalwa wena and Umlazi. Why is it important to have that kind of chronology for yourself as an artist and to continually introduce it in conversation and through your music?
I guess for us to know where we are going, we need to know where we come from. And by us knowing where we come from, we are able to navigate this space with so much originality. And well, I really acknowledge where I come from because the values that were instilled in me allow me to sort of like gravitate towards a voice that is very original.
You're a trained musician, Siyakhula Music Center, UKZN. What have been the learnings from these institutions that inform your music today?
So many learnings. I guess being part of these institutions has really helped me, you know, like sort of like construct a voice, and also thinking about this music. This music has such a strong lineage, and through these teachings, one has been able to tap into the histories of these musics, and also, you know, thinking about this professional world. It's important for us to be a part of institutions as a way of acquiring knowledge, you know, and this very same knowledge is the knowledge that we would then, you know, share with the ones that come after us. So being in these institutions was really a way to sort of like package the importance that, you know, just the essence of the sound and how the sound has been constructed over the years and what it really means to be a musician and what are the properties that make a musician.
You are so passionate about knowledge impartation. Just you responding to this question, making me think about you teaching at Tshwane University of Technology. you still impact uSiyakhula Music Center. And there's an element of teaching that is often forgotten, which is mentorship. And how important has mentorship been for you, receiving it from the likes of Dr. Nduduzo Makhathini, and through you being a mentor yourself?
Yeah. Well, I guess it all stems from, you know, this African epistemic, you know, this African knowledge systems, thinking about how this idea of a master and a disciple is so central in our, you know, culture. So this is something that you cannot escape, I would like to think, if you were to navigate this world with the values that are instilled in our culture. You know, there's this important proverb that I've used in my debut album, Indlela ibuzwa kwabaphambili, you know, and, you know, well, to translate that, it really speaks about this idea of learning from the ones that have walked the path.
Yeah.
And because I've gone through that very same, you know, school, you speak about Dr. Makhathini, who's been very pivotal in my journey, and he's been a really great master, a teacher, and a very close friend. And I just feel like he has instilled so much in me that I would love to share with, you know, the ones that come after me.
Yeah.
So I guess this relationship of a master disciple, and also isiZulu sithi izandla ziyagezana. And if we think about this idea of a community, how we stem from this particular community and we rely on one another, ubuntu, giving, you know, and also receiving. So really my journey is around that, and it's not because I'm doing anything special, but I'm just responding to the teachings of, you know, my masters.
Yeah, yeah. And let's get into the music. Let us get into it. Your album, Iladi. Word has it, the T is your Standard Bank Young Artist Award reception in 2022 inspired the album. Please tell us more about that.
Yes. Well, Iladi comes at a very special time. You know, really what was in my mind and my entire system, you know, what really came to the fore is gratitude.
Sure.
And, you know, my life was just surrounded by grace, you know. And I remember when I was told, you know, about the news of being the Standard Bank Young Artist Award for 2022, I was traveling to Brazil for a festival with Makhathini. And, you know, just in that flight, I was just reflecting on the journey and how the journey has been guided and how the journey has been supported by these, you know, different system structures. And I just thought that maybe this is the time for me to respond sonically what it means to me, all these happenings, what do they mean? And Iladi really came to the fore because where I come from, you know, Ekaya, my dad would really emphasize the importance of this particular gathering as a way to acknowledge, you know, all the gifts, all the beauty that we've been, you know, experiencing in our journeys. You know, isiZulu sinokuthi kubonga okuncane kubonga okukhulu, and I'm really always in this like vehicle of paying gratitude.
Sure.
And then, you know, Iladi really speaks to that. It was a response to Standard Bank, you know, it was a response to the community, it was a response to where the music comes from, it was a response to my ancestors that are continuing, you know, guiding this journey. So Iladi was a result of that, of this special award, guidance, and of course Iladi was supported by Standard Bank. That's why we have an album today.
Yeah, yeah. And looking at Iladi and the themes that you have spoken about just in our sitting now relate greatly to the work that you have produced, right? So you're speaking about ancestry, you're speaking about community, you're speaking about the disciple and the learner. And I'm thinking, Gogo, with your first song, Ikosa, a deacon, a person who's in service of others. How important is it for you, Linda, not to create demarcations between your art and yourself as a person?
Well, you know, I remember this other time we were speaking with Makhathini, and Makhathini spoke deeply about this idea of trying by all means to use our work as a way to speak our very own language. How would you then pick up an instrument that is so Western but make it speak your language?
Sure.
When many people think of jazz, they think of this elite music, music for certain people. And really in my journey, I try by all means to demystify all these boundaries or all these notions of elitism in the music. But how do I then create an album or a song that could be relatable to a cousin, Kwanongoma?
Sure.
And really, I've been trying so hard to sort of use my very own upbringing, transpose that into the music that I produce or the music that I play. And I think, Iladi does something really special when it comes to those kind of directions that I've been, trying to do. And I remember this other time when I had released the lead single, Inkehli. My cousin just randomly called me, hey, Bafung Laleli Inkehli, And I could see that he went to listen to the song because he can relate to the name Inkehli and what it means. So with that, it really helps for us to draw, our people, because we are a representation of our people. Then it would not make sense for us to create music that our people won't have access to.
We often speak about how artists impact a particular genre of music and never subvert the question to how does the music impact you. Please tell us, how does jazz help you rationalize your life? What are the sensibilities that you have as Linda, the man, the artist, the teacher, that you have drawn through the teachings and through the characteristics of jazz?
Well, for me, jazz is an important portal for study, as we've seen, through the different periods of this music in South Africa, because it's such a rich, archive that we have in jazz, and somehow jazz has a way of helping us to document certain periods. Jazz sort of help us to tap into to certain periods in the country, whether it's politically or whether it's spiritually. So for me, really, this music has been a portal for study, and I keep finding things as I move along, even through the music that I make. You speak about the titles, Ikosa. Then this pushes me to, a deep level of study, to better understand what is Ikosa and how do I translate it in the music that I play. But just using, different modes that reside in the music, and how do I then, use these modes as a way to tap into my cultural understanding.
Sure. And with your music, it's almost as if there's a kind of human embodiment that you have within your music, right? Like there's a femme energy, strong feminine energy with your current body of work. Why is that important to have your work embodied as a person or as a thing for your listeners and for yourself?
Well, I think it's important, especially for an album that speaks to gratitude, and gratitude which comes in different registers, and how we acknowledge a structure, Of course, I need to embody this humanness because the music is being created by a human for human beings. And I think these kind of topics are important so that people can relate to the music, so that people can use this music as their very own way of navigating towards their personal spaces.
Yes. So being on the roster of Blue Note Records is no small feat. Congratulations. How has it been signing with Blue Note and with Universal Music Africa?
Well, it's really an honor. We spoke about the importance of a community and how a community plays a big role of like creating a safe space, for people. And I think signing to Universal Music was really a bridge to Blue Note. And how was it a bridge for me to get to Universal Music? It is through my teacher and friend, Dr. Nduduzo Makhathini. And again, we come back to this idea of a community, how do we get there? And also speaking about, this prestigious record label, Blue Note, which has documented the big part of this music, which is jazz. It's really an honor, and I think it speaks to so many things. And also thinking about where I come from. I come from South Africa, which is a country that is rich in jazz. And I would like to think that if Blue Note had come to South Africa in the 60s, we have so many albums that would have been signed to Blue Notes, the likes of Yakali Nkomo, Inhlupeko. These are seminal albums that belong to that particular sound. So with us signing, we are actually representing, this part of the world that sort of deserves to be in this stable. So really, it's just a representation of my people, I would like to think.
And in your representation of your people, it's first prefaced with the representation of yourself, right? Yes. And in your albums, there are very clear aesthetic choices that are made, and aesthetic choices that relate to your evolution as a thinker, to your evolution as a spiritual being. Take us through your thinking behind the aesthetic of a body of work. Why are the visuals equally as important as the music itself?
I think it all stems from this word, originality. How can I be the most original self, but be in a space that, that is inviting? Jazz is played all around the world, but then how can I be a jazz musician that is easy, that you can easily spot that this person comes from this particular place? And also, I guess the significance of these aesthetics really speak deeply to where one comes from. And it carries so much values that resides in our very own cultural backgrounds. Sure.
So, Linda, there is a young musician out there. In fact, there are people, irrespective of art forms or works, that are looking at you. What do you want your existence to represent for each and every South African today?
Well, I really hope that people can love themselves, and people can be very patient with themselves, and people should not stop, working hard towards, what really makes sense to them. And I strongly believe that this journey is an infinite journey, and we should just keep going.
Thank you so much, Linda, for your time. Thank you for the music. When going through the archives and hearing what people say about you, they say that there is a thin line between your character and the music that you produce. The calmness, the thoughtfulness, intentionality, and also the need to pay it forward in community really resonates in the work that you do. And thank you so much for contributing to the legacy of Standard Bank, being the champion of the arts, and we will be keeping a close eye on your trajectory going forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation.
Awesome. Good people, that is the end of our conversation today. You know the drill. Our social media, it is Standard Bank Arts. We want to hear what you have to say, and you too share your thoughts and how Linda Sikhakhane has impacted you as a listener. It's Mathabo Tlali, and remember, it is Standard Bank, champion of the arts.